I took a couple weeks off my podcast. You guys, life definitely got in the way. But thinking back to my very last episode, which was a couple weeks ago, I was chatting about summer winding down and how our homes can sometimes feel caught between the seasons. So you have that bright and airy feel to them, but they just might be missing that cozy vibe when we start craving fall. And in that episode, I definitely shared some simple and subtle tips that you can start rotating the seasons. So in that one, I really didn't talk about breaking out the pumpkins, just some subtle ways to create that coziness that you start feeling in fall. Now that it's been a couple weeks and fall is really starting to break through, you might be ready to grab those pumpkins. So go ahead, give that one a listen, you guys. And it might inspire you to start transitioning from summer into fall. Now, in this week's episode, I definitely want to talk about my arsenal of supplies and why they have become my go tos. They've actually become a staple on my shelf, and I love them so much that honestly, many of them I carry in my online store. So I definitely want to dive in, and I'm going to break it down for you in today's podcast.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Hey, friends, welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled, the podcast where we rescue forgotten treasures, give them new life, and find inspiration in the creative process. I'm Sonnet from Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and today I am so excited because we are diving into one of my favorite topics. What's in my DIY arsenal? So, after many years of thrift flips, subscription boxes, and teaching workshops, I have definitely built up a set of products that I just cannot live without. These are paints, papers, really the tools that I reach for over and over again. And today I am going to share not only what they are, but why I love them and how I use them, and just a few little tips and tricks along the way. So, whether you're listening with coffee in your hand or maybe you're out thrifting while tuning in, let's get into it. So, the very first item that I discovered in my upcycling, thrifting, repurposing journey was IOD. And you guys, I found IOD, and initially I just bought from a local stockist and I loved it so much. My mom actually introduced me to IOD, and it was just honestly, the items that they create gives you so many options for upcycles and for creating. They make you an artist. With their supplies, you look like an artist when you're upcycling. So it has definitely been one of my biggest go-tos. And if you've, been following me for even a minute, I just adore their products. And recently I feel so just so blessed, you guys. I was asked to be part of the IOD artisan team, and Sally and Jonathan Mark Mendez sat down and they chose 8 individuals to be part of this creative team. And I was one of them. So when I received that email, I honestly screamed a little bit and I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So each and every month I create a video for them using their amazing products and really showcase, how I use them in my upcycles. And I'm so excited to bring you guys along on that journey each and every month. So let's just break down their products little by little. The first thing I discovered from IOD were the molds, you guys. These are honestly a game changer. I just love taking something that is super plain and just giving it new life. So, a really good example would be a thrifted frame, or a wooden box, or just any scrap wood. You can use the molds to create just such ornate detail. It instantly gives character, like it was a carved antique, you guys. And the detail, I cannot get over the detail of these molds. They're just absolutely amazing. So I remember when I first used the very first time I used my IOD molds. And I actually did a video on it. I had I always receive calls, you guys. People are always looking on the curbs for different things. And a friend of mine messaged me and said, "Hey, there are two amazing dressers that are on the curb." And I don't know if she said amazing. She just said wood, I think. And I thought they were amazing. So she did say there's two wood dressers on the curb. So I'm like, I'm going to go check them out. And they were from Gabriel's Furniture, and that was a local furniture store in our area, and they've been around for years and years and years. And these are antique dressers. So I grabbed them because honestly, when I pulled up, the garbage truck was in the neighborhood. They were ready to be tossed in the garbage truck and squished. So I put them in my truck, I brought them home, and I then saw a video about how somebody took and they created, or they did oh, a Pottery Barn dupe, and it was on, I'm trying to remember who I actually saw that did the Pottery Barn dupe, but it was such a cool idea, and I thought that would be a really fun video to showcase how I'm using the IOD molds to create this Pottery Barn dupe of this dresser. But they only had one dresser at the Pottery Barn. I had two dressers. So what I did is I grabbed a bunch of molds and I completely transformed these two dressers. And I did receive some flack saying, like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you painted that antique dresser." But honestly, you guys, when I find something and I rescue it, anything I do to it, I mean, it was ready to get crunched in a garbage truck. So I was like, it's a free for all. I get to experiment, I get to have fun, I get to use my creative juices to take something that was going to be eventually in the landfill, and repurpose it and give it new life. And that's exactly what I did. And I ended up having those in my booth for just a very short period of time. And somebody bought both of them because they were that amazing. Um, but it was a definitely a learning experience. You know, I broke out my Type Bond. I used the IOD clay in the mold. So keep in mind with the molds, you can use the clay or you can use resin. If you want something that, just holds up a little bit more, if you're going to be using it outside, I would definitely recommend the resin. And again, I love Type Bond with the molds. So I just, that was such a distinct memory that I just will never forget it. And when my husband got home, you guys, because we live in a very cozy home also. It's not huge by any means, and our kitchen is by far the smallest. I had both dressers laying on their backs with molds on them, drying. So he had to shimmy through that kitchen to get into the living room. And he's like, "Okay, how long are these staying in here?" But honestly, by using molds on pieces, it takes it from, like a junk pile into something that is really a boutique piece. And I would definitely, if you have not yet dabbled in the molds, I would definitely do that. Next are the transfers. And this is the easiest, I'm telling you, the honestly easiest way to transform any project. I was trying to like any small item, any large piece. The IOD transfers, they come in very big scale. You can layer them. It is just so much fun. And honestly, it makes it look like you painted something on the piece. And with just a couple little tips, you want to make sure you really burnish that transfer into your project by really rubbing it. And then you want to seal it to give it that added protection. But honestly, you guys, you can take any vintage item and, like I said, like dressers, signs, crates. And I love them because there are florals, there are, botanicals, they have different fonts. I mean, you name it, you can find it in their transfers. And honestly, like I said, they look like a hand painted piece of furniture or hand painted item, just straight out of Europe. And I believe that's where IOD gets a lot of their inspiration. They go on trips, they over to Europe and they look at, all these amazing, architectural details. But yes, and then they bring them all back to us. And then we get all these amazing tools right at our fingertips. The latest thing though, you guys, and finally, like the one thing that they recently came up with was the paint inlays. And honestly, if you've never tried them, oh my goodness, you are missing out. They are they are paint. So it truly embeds in your project. It is a paint on like this paper medium and there's a technique to do it, but honestly, like so many people are scared to use these. They use them and they're not absolutely perfect because they may not have misted it thoroughly or what have you. But I love that look. I love the authentic look of it, just makes it look vintagey when that image doesn't come out perfect. It looks very old and like it's been, around for years. So it has that weathered design, that weather design type of look. Really that it's like been there forever. And I still do remember one of my very first videos that I created for you guys, and I showcased how you can put a paint inlay, not only in paint, but you can do it in any type of top coat as well. And I made the biggest boo-boo because one thing that I like to do is really like wipe over the paint inlay before, to embed it in whether it's the top coat or your paint. And I had my brush that had all top coat and I literally top coated over the entire top of it. I then, dried it and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just sealed this all in." But with a little elbow, grease, I was able to like get it off and really showcase how you can save something, even though you may do something like that. So don't top coat it like I did. What I always do is I just embed it and I give it a good misting and really get that in there. But like I said, don't be afraid of these at all. They're amazing. And honestly, at my upcoming retreat, there are still a few tickets available. Sally from IOD will be there, and she is going to be teaching how to use a paint inlay. She's going to be focusing on the molds, some of the stamps, and just really pulling together this whole entire project. I am super excited for her to be there. And if you've always wanted to meet Sally from IOD, this is your opportunity. So I do have tickets still available on my website. I definitely want you guys to hear about this and know that there's just a few tickets left. So let's fill this baby up, okay? All right, let's go on to my next favorite project or product, Fusion Mineral Paint. So I I cannot believe for the longest time I just used the clay DIY paint. I love that too. But there were so many times where I had a project where I truly needed a one-step paint, and I just kept going back to DIY. And then finally one day I'm like, this project I have to test a new paint, and I need a one step. Plus, I was hearing from my customers too that they wanted a one step paint. So I went out and I tried quite a few different one steps. And honestly, you guys, Fusion Mineral Paint just stood out. It's amazing. I will tell you that. This is just a paint that has a wide range of colors. The coverage is absolutely crazy good. The brush strokes, you get very minimal brush strokes, and really the finish itself just looks so professional. It has a self leveler in it. So like I said, you know, even if you're not the smoothest painter, it does even itself out. It gets rid of a lot of those brush strokes. Plus, their paintbrushes help with that as well. And I have now painted so many things with Fusion. The very first thing I did though with Fusion is I painted a dresser. And oh, you guys, the color. I used a color called Wellington, and it's just beautiful. And it has definitely become one of my favorites. Actually, every time I break out a new color, I consider it my new favorite color because they're all absolutely gorgeous. Um, Another one I love is Everett. It's just a deep, moody green, but they're neutrals, you guys. I honestly like raw silk, cashmere, Victorian lace. Those are definitely my top three sellers for the neutrals. But really, prep work is super minimal. You just really want to clean your item. If it there, you know, you have to scuff sand if there is some type of sheen to it, but they do have products like Ultra Grip and things like that. But honestly, you guys, this one step paint is amazing. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. I have it in two of my vendor booths, and I'm constantly restocking because people are loving it. Once they try it, they don't want to go back to any other paint. So if you haven't tried Fusion, I would highly recommend it. Now back to my clay base paint, DIY. You guys, I love DIY paint for a clay base paint. And I love DIY so much too because you can do so much with it. You can blend, you can layer. It is so heavily pigmented. The colors are so rich. In many cases, you only need like I always call it a coat and a half because it's really one coat and then you just need to touch up here and there. But the blendability of DIY, I the very first time I did a blending technique was on my buffet, and I picked 3 different colors, and I had never blended anything before, and I had watched a video, and I was like, "Okay, I can do this." And it took a little bit, but it's still in my living room, and it is my one of my prized possessions that I have, in my living room, and I love looking at it every day because it just makes me realize, like, I did that. I created that with DIY paint. I was able to blend those 3 colors together and really make this amazing piece. And I love the bright colors of DIY, and that pop of color in my living room is just what it needed. So, I definitely would recommend if you haven't tried DIY paint, you definitely want to. There are so many amazing colors. The one tip I would recommend is if you are going to be blending, I would definitely recommend getting a misting bottle. It makes blending so, so easy. And, you know, that way too, when you lay down the DIY paint, you spritz it with water, and you can move that paint around just so much easier. And then really the colors just dance together. It's a little messy, the whole process, but honestly, guys, it is just so fun. Get your painting clothes on, and actually with DIY paint, you don't even need paint clothes because it will wash out, until you seal it. It can be reactivated with water. My favorite top coat is Big Top from DIY, and I give it a good seal, and it, like, hardens like a rock, and it's ready to put into whatever room, or, if you're using a small piece, any small upcycles, it's perfect. So next, you guys, I discovered Royce from Roycycled Decoupage Paper. And one day I was watching a video and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this paper? I love it. And it was being used, and the person never said, it was recycled paper or anything like that. So I like took a little screenshot of it, and was doing tons and tons of research, and I found it. And that's when I discovered Royce. And I tried to be a stockist because after using it a few times, I'm like, this stuff is amazing. Her paper is like a tissue type decoupage paper, and it's the perfect weight, you guys. So when you apply it to a piece, it looks like it's the piece. It blends seamlessly into your piece, and that's why I love it so much. So if you've been using my Maker's Box, you will know that Royce does create 2 exclusive papers for me each and every month. And so I curate the Fusion mineral paint colors to the decoupage paper in the Maker's Box. But on the flip side, I do have Royce's full line of papers as well on my website. Royce is just she's got this like this style to her, you guys. It's like a vintage inspired bold. They have so much character. I love how she uses like all my favorite things. You're always going to find some beautiful botanical just dancing in the background. She has birds. Did I say botanical? I meant fonts, but she has botanicals dancing in the background too. I'm just trying to envision like her papers. They look rusty and old and aged. I just love them all. And they can be used on furniture, they can be used on small pieces. Any project you can use the decoupage paper on. A little tip for you, though, that I have discovered is I like my misting bottle again. So I mist the paper to activate the fibers in it. And that is going to really help you guys eliminate a lot of those wrinkles. The other thing is, I do always start with what's called a starter strip. So I lay my paper down, I then tip it back, and I add a little bit of liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium. And I just add a good layer of that, mist the paper. I get that first section in place, and then I work my way down. It gives you better control over your piece of decoupage paper. And honestly, you guys, like I said, it eliminates almost all the wrinkles. So that is like one thing I had heard right away in the beginning is like, oh gosh, I always get wrinkles. I don't want wrinkles. What can I do to get rid of them? So, the liquid patina, though, you guys, it is such a great product to work with Royce's papers as well. I love it. Then next, you guys, I had discovered Sweet Pickins Milk Paint. I had always wanted to try milk paint, and there's a couple different companies out there that offer milk paint, and I stumbled upon Sweet Pickins, and so I tried it, and I just fell in love. I mean, it is the color palette all the different colors in their palette of colors are amazing. I love how They have that vintage vibe to them. So, like, even, like, if you want a dresser, it like, that old school, like, green julep type of dresser, that, was very popular in the day, they have that color. I mean, any color that you can think of is part of the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, line. And the one thing too that I think is so cool is that when it is in powdered form, it is not going to spoil. It will it the shelf life is unlimited until you mix it, then there's a 24-hour shelf life. I just recommend, using it up as quick as possible. That's what I do. If you are doing multiple coats, I always put a cover over it, in between, but it's super easy to use. 1 part water to 1 part milk paint or the powder, mix it really good. Um, I really like to blend it up really good with a whisk and get out all those chunks. Even if like there are some chunks, you can give it a good sand, but it has got the most beautiful finish, you guys, and it is very unpredictable, which I love because on some, you never know exactly what's going to happen on your piece. The milk paint really just takes that piece and does whatever it wants. So sometimes you get some chippy goodness, sometimes you get some crackle goodness, and sometimes you get the most perfect, beautiful finish. But you can always take it and sand it back a little bit and give it more of that vintage vibe. I love everything distressed and, chippy, and I love that look. Some people don't. You do not need to do that. If you got that perfect finish and you don't want to do anything, you can leave it as is. But there is also like the Ultra Bond that gives you more. Like if you do not want any chippiness, any crackle, give yourself a little Ultra Bond in there and you'll have the perfect finish that way. It just definitely bonds to whatever you are applying the paint to all the better. And really, then the last step, you have to seal it. And they have the oil waxes, which, oh, you guys, I do not know how I lived without the oil waxes as long as I did. I'm slightly obsessed with the dark oil wax. As fast as I get it in, I think because my obsession I've been putting it out into the universe that it's become other people's obsession as well. So as fast as I get it in, I am selling it. It is pretty darn amazing. So, but yes, the dark oil wax, or there's white, clear, or black. And then they also have top coats to go with it. If you definitely want a crackle finish, they do have the crackle. But there's so many different products that go along with this line. So, I know the first time that I used Sweet Pickins, I was not entirely aware of the unpredictability of it, and I did get, some chippiness, some crackle. I just loved it, and I guess when you get that unpredictability, you just have to embrace that. You have to realize, like, this is how it's going to be, I know some people don't like unpredictability. They wanna know what it's going to look like, and with, the milk paint, unfortunately, you will never know. So, unless you add that extra bond. So, all right, or extra bond. I called it ultra bond, but it's extra bond, you guys. And if you do want to do any like resist, you can use a little wax or Vaseline, and it's just like it's more of a controlled chaos. So you know where the milk paint will not sit. And then lastly, you guys, I want to just give myself a shout out, my digital press. I recently started creating my own 5 digital prints, and they are available in the Makers Box for all the Makers Box subscribers. But I do have a subscription now. And the one thing that I discovered is now that I know how to create my own digital papers, I love that I can create something for myself when I need need it. So if there's not anything out there, and I have a vision and I just don't have anything at my fingertips, I can quickly create this digital file, and then use it. And so that's what I've been doing, is creating 5 digital files for you guys each and every month. And so, like I said, there's a couple ways to use these. They're in the Maker's Box or the digital press subscription. So, I just think, when I curate this, I do curate the 5 prints to go with the Maker's Box. So it's all curated to go together and work together seamlessly. So you can intermix Royce's papers, my papers, Connie's papers are in the box, so you can intermix all of those. But it's just been such a fun part of my creative process. And it just means so much when I see people using them in their projects. And I have been starting to see that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my paper. So now I know how both Connie and Royce feel when they see other people using and creating with their papers. It feels so good. Um, so here's your challenge, you guys. Start building your own DIY arsenal, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just start with one paint line that you love, and just a few papers that speak to you, and the tools that you'll actually use. Just build it up slowly, and then soon you guys are going to have your own creative arsenal right at your fingertips, just like me. And I'm sure many of you that are listening, or a majority of you, already have that. But if you haven't tried any of the products that I am talking about today, I would highly recommend it. They are amazing products, and I only offer products that I can stand behind, that I've tested, that I love, and that's why I always talk about them. And I thought this would be a perfect podcast to talk about some of my favorites. And you know what? And honestly, I'd love to hear from you guys. What is in your creative arsenal? Share it with me on any of my socials. I'd love to hear about it, or even in the comments on this. I'm going to have it on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms. I'd love to hear what your some of your favorite tools to use. So, next week, you guys, I am going to now dive into my actual toolbox. So, like, what are my favorite brushes? What are my favorite adhesives? My sanding blocks? What are some of my staple items that I just cannot live without, that I always have sitting within feet of me when I am creating. So I am going to dive into that next week. But I do want to thank you guys so much for spending this time with me today. These are just some of the products that keep me inspired and creating day after day. And I hope you'll try some of them out in your own projects and just see how amazing that they truly are. And don't forget, you guys, hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on an episode. And follow me on all my other social platforms, because I put out a lot more content over there as well. And I am sorry that I took a little hiatus these last couple weeks, but I just needed a little mini break, just to recoup and or regroup. I guess, see, I still need a break. But I just needed to regroup, and I'm feeling so much better. So until next time, or next week, you guys, keep rescuing, keep creating, and keep making beautiful things. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.